So I started fishing with, my grandfather actually had a house in the Bahamas. So the first fish I ever caught was a big barracuda standing on a dock. He was certainly a big influence, but he was mostly a diver. He loved to snorkel and dive for lobsters and whatnot. My uncle, he's pretty much the reason why I got into fishing. He was a weekend bass guy. He always needed somebody to go with him. So I actually won my first bass tournament when I was 8 years old. He put me in the back of, he had a little Terry bass boat, 18-foot Terry bass boat, and gave me a bait caster. And I was able to cast it about 15 feet, and then about every half hour he'd back the knob off so that I wouldn't continue to backlash it. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I see my high vis line going off to the left, and he says, reel down to set the hook. I set the hook. To this day, it's my personal best, 8-pound, 14-ounce bass. I've never caught one any bigger than that, and at 8 years old, I actually won my first tournament as a co-angler on Lake Okeechobee. When fishing wasn't a hobby for me, probably when I was in my 20s. I started guiding duck hunters in Lake Okeechobee when I was 14. And all I really needed was somebody to drive the car in the airboat up to the lake. And then from that point on, I would take some of my dad's buddies. But I couldn't make a living on a 30-day duck hunting season, so I started fishing in the flats of the Everglades down in the Florida Keys, as well as on the Florida Keys. And it wasn't but a short time after that that I realized being outside, being my own boss, and that's what we try to encourage kids to do today, is to get outside. That's one of the reasons I realized at that point that this is going to be a living for me. So the biggest fish that I've ever caught, I caught in 1990 in August, and I was up in Massachusetts fishing in the bay between Gloucester and P-Town, and was able to catch an 856-pound bluefin tuna on stand-up tackle. The cool part about that was that this fish went around 25 different boats that were anchored chumming just like we were doing. So every time that we'd go to an anchor rope, the line on the anchor rope, we'd back off on the drag. After probably 10 minutes of weaving through all these boats with no drag, we finally were able to start reeling, getting the line back. So I reeled for 20 minutes as fast as I could on a big 80 wide, loaded up with 50. That fish had been waiting and resting on the surface, gassed actually. And we were able to get up on that fish. And I'll never forget it, when the line came tight and he felt us there, he took off for the bottom and literally yanked me out of my topsider shoes, and I was going overboard because we were in stand-up harness, and the guy's son grabbed me and stopped me, and I remember my friend Ralph Delph yelling, "Back off on the drag and you'll be okay." And I backed off on the drag. We harpooned the fish, and we actually caught an 856 bluefin tuna in 1990.